Hi, I'm Congressman John Carter, the U.S. House of Representatives for Texas, 31st District. I want to thank the Department of the Army, Fort Hood leadership, the Heart of Texas Defense Alliance, our soldiers and families, our fellow Texans, for the opportunity to speak on this critical matter today. The Army will be hard-pressed to find an installation with a higher military value capability than Fort Hood. Few installations have more expansive and conveniently located training areas, access, proximity, and abundance of maneuver and gunnery ranges, enhance readiness while maximizing our cost effectiveness. Our military must train combined, joint, and integrated air-land operations. Fort Hood accommodates these requirements through its large air corridors, impact areas, and airfields. Central Texas also offers superior logistical assets. Secure air, rail, and sea deployment infrastructure saves the taxpayers money when the nation decides to move and employ ground forces. Fort Hood can maximize this available infrastructure, which results in faster and more efficient power projection. The low cost of living in Central Texas requires lower pay and allowances. Fort Hood basic allowance for housing rates are lower than any other installation. Inexpensive utilities and water further reduce the cost for soldiers and base support operations. Over 75% of Fort Hood soldiers live off the installation in the surrounding communities. They benefit strongly from Central Texas high-quality medical, transportation, education, affordable housing, and workforce services for family members. In closing, the military value capability of Fort Hood is unmatched. I call on the Department of the Army to make its decisions based on the unique strengths of Fort Hood that set it apart from other installations. Doing so will benefit taxpayers, soldiers, the Army, and our nation. I want to thank the Central Texas community for all they do for our men and women in uniform and their families. Thank you. And now a word from my good friend and colleague, Congressman Roger Williams.
Thank you, John. Hello, I'm Congressman Roger Williams from the 25th Congressional District of Texas. Unfortunately, my duties in Washington have prevented me from being here in person today, but I want to thank you for taking the time to hear what we have to say about Fort Hood. As my friend and colleague just mentioned, Fort Hood has many attributes that set it apart from other military installations. From its state-of-the-art training facilities to its experienced leadership and world-renowned reputation, Fort Hood is the epitome of 21st century preparedness for the 21st century soldier. Fort Hood is a treasure of Texas, but is also the gold standard for the Army, the Department of Defense, and our nation's overall national security posture. But what makes Fort Hood the most unique is the simple fact that it is so cost-effective. Now that may seem like an unusual characteristic to highlight, but in a time of sequestration, budget cuts, and congressional gridlock, an efficient and lower-cost military base is the most sustainable and therefore the most desirable. Because most of Fort Hood soldiers live off base, they get their everyday services from their local communities in Central Texas. From education to transportation to medical care, the tremendous capabilities of the surrounding areas support the military value of Fort Hood as an installation. As such, you will not find an installation that is more efficient in executing those capabilities than Fort Hood, nor a community that understands that relationship more than Central Texas. I would like to express my gratitude to Fort Hood, the Department of the Army, our soldiers and their families and fellow Texans. I want to thank you for your time. May God bless our troops. May God bless the great place. And God bless the United States of America.